Hello crafty viewers! For today's video we're going to be making this very springy thank you card using products that are out of the Sale-a-bration catalog. So sit back and watch how I put this together. So for today's card we are going to be working with paper out of the Berry Blessings Designer Series paper, and you can earn that paper for free with a $100 purchase. It also comes with a stamp set. The very first thing that I did was take a piece of thick basic white cardstock and cut it to 5.5 by 8.5, scored it at 4.25, and we're going to have a top folding card. Now I took a piece of this paper out of the Berry Blessings Designer Series paper, and this is the paper that has red raspberries on the back. But I wanted to have a piece of the green for the background. And when I cut this the first time, I accidentally cut it so that the leaves were facing up, and I took a 4.25 inch slice off of it and then realized that the leaves would be facing in the wrong direction when you turned it landscape-wise. So make sure that you pay attention before you cut your paper. And this is cut to 4.25 by 5.5. Now we can simply mount this right onto that card base. And this does go from edge to edge. I'm not going to have any reveal on this card today. That is the puppy. She finally found the squeaker in Mad Kitty. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is I have a piece of Pacific Point paper, and this is also cut to 4.25 by 5.5, and I am going to cut this into two pieces. So this needs to be cut at 2 3/4 inch by 5.5. And this piece needs to be cut to 1 1/4 inch. So that should leave us a 1/4 inch left over. Now this does not need to be 5.5 inches. This is going to be cut to 4.25. So it's 1 1/4 by 4.25. All right, we got those two pieces cut. Now we're going to take our piece of the blueberry paper, and this is cut to 4 by 5.5 inches. And this has the blue plaid on the back, and then the blueberries on the front. Now I'm going to make sure that the piece that's on the larger side is going to have more blueberries in it, because once you flip this over, I'd rather have the blueberries showing. So I am going to cut this to 2 5/8 inch. And then this leftover piece gets cut to 1 1/8 inch. Now all of these measurements are going to be in a handout that you can find. My subscribers can download it from our website, and I'll put the link to the website down below. If you sign up for my newsletter, you can download copies of these tutorials for free. Okay, so that gives us a little tiny strip left over. This piece also gets cut to 4 1/4 inches. This card actually comes together fairly quickly. Okay, I can mount these two pieces together. And this leaves a 1/16 inch reveal. So I always like to put my paper down before I adhere it, just to understand with the tape side facing up how much space I have on each side. And that gives me nice, even edges. We can set this aside. Now this piece is going to have this on top of it, and this also has a 1/16 inch reveal. However, if you recall, in our completed card, I have this frame, and I sized this so that I could cut the frame out of this piece of cardstock, and you'll never see it because it will be buried underneath the blueberry paper. So, if you've watched me for any length of time, you know that I loved the Stitch So Sweetly dies. They are very versatile. I use them a lot. And I'm going to cut this out using the second from the largest of the scalloped frames. Now the trick is to make sure that you get this centered right in the middle so that you don't have any edges showing. So it's not too close to one edge or the other, so that when you put the paper on, the little scallops aren't showing from behind. And nobody will ever know that you economized on your paper. And I'm going to use my little mini machine here. You also know, if you've been watching my videos lately, how much I love this little die cutting machine because it can sit right here on my desktop with me. And that's the only die cut that we're actually going to be making in today's project. Okay, we're going to set this aside for a minute, and we can adhere down our blueberry strip onto the Pacific point. Now, I'm not going to put the adhesive on here. I'm actually going to put it right up to the edge on here, and that way it will make sure that it catches those edges on our Pacific point card base there. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to adhere this onto my card base here, and I'm going to adhere it about 5/8 of an inch up from the bottom edge so that there's more showing from the bottom than there is from the top. Or sorry, more showing on top than on the bottom. And we can adhere this piece down now. And this will also go about 5/8 of an inch in. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm going to take my piece of basic white cardstock, and this is cut to 2 1/8 of an inch by 3 1/4. And I'm actually going to adhere it down onto my blue here. Even though we still need to stamp it, you'll see why in a minute, because I do want to make sure that I position it correctly. And this, when it's cut to this size, 2 1/8 by 3 1/4, it just fits right inside of the stitching on this beautiful little frame. Okay, now the trick is for stamping. If you have a stamp positioning tool, what I did was I put card in and positioned it where it would go. And then I put this piece that we're going to stamp on, and I had it kind of laid out exactly where I wanted it when I'm done. And what I did was I want the words to be parallel with the bottom. And so by positioning this ahead of time, I can actually make sure that my words are going to be parallel. My butterfly is in the right spot. And that way I can stamp it and have it exactly where I want it to be. Because the butterfly and the words kind of need to be parallel to the bottom, even though the paper is going to be offset like this. So I'm going to hold this down really good with some magnets here. And I'm going to use my Memento ink. Stamp this up really good. Now, you can also try to use a stamping block, and if you don't have a stamp positioning tool, you would put the stamping block so that you could do it two ways. Put the stamps on here so that the words are parallel with the bottom, and then stamp it like this, or have it so that it's exactly right like this, and then have the words be kind of a little bit diagonal on the stamping block. Just depends on what you want to do, but I know that my Memento ink here was left out open overnight, and so I might need to stamp this a couple times because I'm not sure how good a coverage I'm going to get after I did that. Surprisingly though, when I tried this out earlier on the sample, it worked fine. So ink may not dry as much as you think overnight. And I need to stamp this a second time. There's a couple little spots I don't like. There, perfect. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to color in the wings. And I pre-positioned the wings on here as well. Now on this stamp, it is going to go way outside of the black, and there's a little notch right here, hopefully you can see that, where the head and the body come in. So you want to make sure that it's pushed far enough out so that it's not covering up the head and the body. There's also, and it's not going to be obvious until I actually stamp this, but there is also a little piece cut out of the stamp. And at first I thought it was defective, then I realized it was that way on purpose. So if you see a little strip where it's not covered, that's actually design. Now I'm going to ink up the wings, but before I stamp it, actually going to do a little something extra. So I have Stampin' Write markers, not the Stampin' Blends, and I have this in Pacific Point. I'm going to take the brush end and I'm just going to put some flicks in here to add a little extra Pacific Point color to it. I'm just flicking. A little breath on there to reactivate the Seaside Spray ink. And there you go. It gives you a little bit of a multi-toned look. I'm going to do the Seaside Spray one more time just to give a little extra color. now we can adhere this onto our card base, and we are almost done. Because this is a thank you card that I know I'm going to be putting into the mail, I'm actually not going to raise it up on dimensionals. However, you certainly can. I've been finding that the Postal Service has been a little particular lately about how thick cards are. So because I know I'm going to be mailing this out, I am going to just leave it flat. Now, when I position this down, I have it so that there is about 2.5 inches on this top, about an inch in from the left, and just kind of spaced evenly up and down, and just evenly left to right. And you'll notice that the words, "thank you so much," are parallel to the bottom of the card. They're not tipped sideways. So that's why it's important to line up your stamps before you try to stamp it down. So we'll give this a good press. And there is our finished card. I hope you enjoyed this video. The papers that you can get for this project, as well as the stamp set, I forgot to mention this was a Touch of Ink stamp set. Both of these were free products out of the Sale-a-bration catalog, and that's going on until February 28th. And look how beautiful this card is. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a fabulous rest of your day. Bye-bye.